Alrighty. I'm doing this tutorial because the CodingBat website is still not letting me upload new assignments. I don't know. I'm doing the exact same thing I've done before. It's not working. So I had to make this assignment just you do it on Code Sculptor, but then you don't get feedback as to how close to right you are with the cases other than just like checking to see if it works or not. So we're going to do this one together. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So let's read through it. So this is a 2D first last switcherast. So we've had 1-2 switcheroo, first last switcherast, and now we got a 2D version of it that we're going to look at. This was supposed to be a CodingBat assignment for some reason. All right, we got through that. Let's read the description. 2D first last switcherast is a function that takes in a 2D lists and switches the first item of the first list with the very last item in the last list, and then it returns the altered list. And the hints here are that it's going to be very similar to the other switching functions, just it's with lists and lists, with 2D lists, right? Don't forget to use a temporary variable, a temp variable, for switching the first and the last, the first and the last. And then also remember that to get the index of the final item in a list, you need to get its length minus 1. Okay. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I don't know. The glasses case over there is pink and orange. We're going to see how this works. Don't worry, just that's all I had to say. Let's keep going. Don't forget to use a temp variable. Oh, we're good. And then here's sample cases. So if I had the list, the 2D list, the input is very first and then filler in the first list. And then the second list is just a single item middle list. And then blah and very last. The output should be, well, the very first item of the very first list and the very last item of the very last list should change, right? That's what 2D first last switcherast should do. So the output just takes very last from the end of the final list and puts it in the front. And it takes very first from the beginning of the first list and puts it in the back. Okay, seems easy enough. So if I have a list of 3 lists that are all length 1, it seems like a weird reason to use a 2D list here. 1, 2, 3, it's going to switch to 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. Input C, stop it. I don't know why Google, it sounds close. I understand why. Whenever I say, okay, cool, my phone thinks that I'm saying, okay, Google. Where was I? Yeah, all right, so a final example over here is if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to take the first item in the first list, the last item in the last list, switch them around. So 6 should be the first item now, and 1 should be the last item of the last list. Notice how for these, the lists are all different sizes, right? And that's going to be an important part when we start getting to coding. Let's hop to it, right? So I'm going to make a 2D first last switcherast, and it's going to take a 2D list. Okay. It has a 2D list. What I'm going to do first is make my temp variable equal to the 2D list at, oh wait, capital L, at 0, at 0. The reason I'm doing that is because it's the very first item in the first list, right? The first block over here says, let me go to the first list. And then the second block over here says, let me go to, the lampshade just came down. Let me go to the first item in the list that I'm in. So if I want to hold on to the first item of the first list, I'm going to go to the 2D list at 0, at 0. Easy enough. Okay. Next, what I want to do is make the 2D list at 0, at 0 equal to the last item in the list, right? I just saved the first item in the list into temp, so now I can just switch it over. Here's where the tough part comes in. So, okay, if I want to get the last list, that's easy enough, right? So I can do 2D list at, to get the last index in a list, right? Don't forget, a 2D list just has 2 lists inside of it, right? So here. Well, first of all, let's come back over here and let's do the call. So I'm going to print out, well, all right, first let's make the list, and I'm going to make the list, let's make it this one first. So let's make it the simplest possible version first. So there's my list, right? It's a list of 3 lists, and the lists inside are only size 1. It seems like a weird reason to use a 2D list, whatever, but it's the simplest one. So I'm going to make the list, and I'm going to now do 2DFirstLastSwitcherast, and I'm going to pass it the list. So now this will print out, first, last, switcherast on the list. So I have the list 1, 2, 3. It should go to this function, do the work, change the list, and then print out whatever the list that I got back as. Okay. So if I want to get the last list, so here this first list is index 0, the second list is index 1, and the third list is index 2, right? So if I want to get the last item, you could say, well, index 2, except the issue is that's only ever going to work for a list, a 2D list with 3 lists in it. I want to do the length of the list minus 1 to get the final index. And we saw this with the original version of first, last, switcherast. So if I do the length of my 2D list minus 1, this should get me how many lists are in my list. So there's 1, 2, 3 of them. So that'll be the length. Minus 1 gets me index 2. It's getting me there, right? But the problem is I only want the last item in this last list, right? So, well, why don't we do it again, right? Get the length minus 1 should work out. So let's try it out. By the way, this will work for this example, but it's not going to work for all of them. Just saying, I'm setting you up for learning something, for a little bit of failure to learn something. Okay. All right, so we have the first item of the first list is going to get switched with the last list, and this looks like it would be the last item. Let's try running it, and it says there's an issue without even anything else. Oh, duh, I know what I did. You have to define your function. Now we run it. What's the error here? To do. No, it's not to do. It's 2D first, last, switcherast. Running it. Oh my goodness. What's the error here? List index out of range. No. So out of range means it's saying it's like going past how many items are in the list. Ah. And this is where the error is. This is not the issue I thought we were going to have, but here's the issue. Well, before we do that, let's comment this out really quick and just see what is going on with this, because it's kind of hard. I get it. It's kind of hard to see what's going on there. So let's just try copying that, and let's print 2D list. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to do this over here. 2D list. Oh, except instead of 2D list, because we're not inside the function now, it's going to be the list, right? 2D list only exists inside of the function. The list is the list we're looking at. And this should be the list. Okay, run this right now. Looking good, right? I did the list at the length of the list minus 1, so it'll get me the final list, right? If I put other things in this list, like 4, and I printed this again, it's going to print 3 and then 4, because it's printing the entire final list, right? The entire final list, because it's a 2D list, and this just tells me the first bracket that you use just gets me to the list. If I want to get to an item in that list, I have to do a second bracket. So if I just want to print the 3 out over here, I could put index 0. So what that will do is it's saying print out the list at length the list minus 1. So this will get me always the length of the list minus 1 gets me the final index. So it gets me to that third list, right? Because this is a length of 1, 2, 3 lists over here. So 3 is the length, minus 1 gets me to index 2. The second one over here says, oh, I'm going to the 0th index of the list that we're at right now. So we're at this third list, so I'm getting the 0th index. That is 3. That's why it prints out 3. So now let's get back to why I was doing an out of bounds error when I had this same thing twice. And let's see it. Let's see that out of bounds error again, right? If I put this here now and I run it, I'm going to get, let's zoom out a tad just because we're running out of space. It says the index is out of range. And that's because, well, the length of the list, how many lists are in here? There are 1, 2, 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So I'm going to index 2. Great, it gets me to this list. But then if I'm getting the last item of the last list over here, this is doing the length of how many lists, right? It's the length of the list. So how many items are in this list? There's 1, 2, 3, right? There are 3 lists in this list. So this is bringing me to index 2 because 3 minus 1 is 2. But inside of this final list, there's only 2 items right now, right? There is 0 and 1 for the index. If I put one more item in here and now I ran it, it actually would be okay because it's going to say item because I'm going to the third index, index 2 in this final list. But that's an issue, right? I can't go to the last item in this list if I'm using the length of the whole list, okay? So that's the error. How in the world are we gonna fix it? Let's fix it. Okay. We're gonna keep this as 3 over here. Get rid of the comment. Let's fix it. The issue was, again, that this second final index was getting me the length minus 1 of the full list of lists. The problem is there are 3 lists here, right? So the length of the 2D list of the bigger part is it's saying there are 3 lists here. But the length of this final list, it only has 1 item in it. So it only has 1 item, right? So I can't do the length of the 2D list. I need to do, and you're ready for this, I need to do the length of the 2D list at this final list. And how do I get to this final list? Well, I go to the 2D list at the final index again, right? So this one more time, right? I mean, it makes sense. So I'm going to highlight this part just so we can see exactly what's going on. Well, hold on, I want to get that whole part. And I'm going to move my mouse around so we can take a look. So this is saying go to the third list, right? Boom, there. That might make it a little nicer, but whatever. We're going to the third list. That's there. Here, I want to go to the final item in that third list, the final item in the final list. So I'm going to go to 2D list at the final list. So I need to do this again to get to the final list. And the length of that list, the length of that final list, right? This is saying I'm going to the 2D list, the final list there. So now I'm over here. And the length of that, minus 1, gets me the final item in that list. So I run it here. There's none because I never returned anything. Let's return the 2D list. And now we're good. We switched them. Not quite. What's going on? We got to the last item of the last list. And even if I did, right, for and item here, this will still get the last item of the last list no matter what, right? It's putting item first, but the problem is it never switched the first item to the last part, right? So all I got to do is just say oh, right. The 2D list at the last item, which is all that stuff over there, should be equal to temp, because temp is holding the first item. So if we do that now, run it, we've now put item in front and 1 at the end. This should work no matter the list. So let's try a couple of the other cases. Let's try this one over here. Copying that, bada bing, bada boom. Test that case out. It looks like it put 6 in front and then 1 in the back, right? It's working. There's one thing that I was going to say to make this look just a little bit cleaner, because this looks gross. These lines 3 and 4, are super long. It's disgusting. And hopefully this maybe helps you understand a little better, because organization helps you understand things better. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a variable called index of last list, and I'm going to set that equal to the 2D list at, and then I do still need to have this part, length 2D list minus 1. So index of the last list is now just going to be that. So instead of saying 2D list at that, I can just say index of last list. And now, if I want the index of last item, I can say the 2D list at the index of last list, and then at, this is not cleaner. It's really not that much cleaner. Because I still need to do this gross stuff anyways. I can't think of a better way to do it. I still need to do 2D list at index of last item at, yeah, never mind. I'm not doing it because I'm just adding extra lines that have the same complexity in lines 3 and 4. Maybe I'm being kind of dense, but I think this is how you have to write it. Please let me know if there's a better way of doing this. I'm sure there is. I'm sure Python has some like nice, fancy, easy peasy way to do it, because Python is, nice like that. But, this way works too. And this is probably what they do when they make the function to do like the fancy thing in Python. That's it. We made our 2D first last switcherast. Hopefully that was helpful. Kind of hard to do this one on your own, right? It's not easy. So yeah, we're good.